The Survivor Specialists, Phil, Will, and Blake are back. We got all three of us tonight. Blake just had to come in, had to show up after that. What did you call it, Blake? What was it?
I think that had to be like the worst episode for Rachel possible. It's her winter dive. Her winter chances just took a nose.
We can't. I mean, come on. Get him out of here. What?
Bring him back in for a second here. He will literally remove Blake from the chat. My goodness. We are here to break this all down, to talk about Kyle goes home. The challenge beast is gone. He will not tie the all-time record for 5 immunity challenge wins. We got Neo Kuro over here saying ban him. So he wants to ban you. Neo Kuro also hates Brandon Donlin a lot. So here we are. Will, what's up? How you doing? What do you got there? A little Thanksgiving treat?
Sipping on a margarita. We have a big family Tex-Mex evening going on right now. So I'm happy to be here though, just to get away from the chaos for a little bit. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody if you're listening tomorrow, or happy Thanksgiving today.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving today. And Will, thank you for taking the time away from your family. Leave them behind. Come join. And if you end up drinking too many margaritas during this podcast, I got Blake who can finish it out if you end up going face down.
My takes only get better the more the margarita goes down. You know that.
They certainly get more aggressive. That's what I'm hoping for by the end of this podcast. So I want to start off with this, though, okay? Because I'm about to say Andy's got no shot. I've been saying it, blah, blah, blah. But I have to say this right off the bat. Tom, Terry, Ozzy, Colby, Mike Holloway, Brad Culpepper, 6 people. 6 people. 2 of them have won the game. That's it. I think Andy's pitch tonight was spot on. If you don't do more than one thing in this game, you're not going to win. Now, I get it. Everybody's like, wow, this guy's a hero. He's a great guy. He's got the family. He's got a story. But people are no longer voting for stories in Survivor. They are voting for the person they think hit the facets of Survivor that need to be hit, which is outwit, outplay, outlast. Kyle hit one of those facets, but I don't think people were going to respect it. And I think Andy was right. His game is one note. Am I wrong here? What do you guys think? I'll start with Will since he was supposed to be here tonight. Will, what do you think? Was this the right move to boot Kyle here? Or did they miss an opportunity to get rid of Genevieve?
I listened to your predictions and power rankings episode with Jelensky, which I was sad to miss. It was a lot of fun. And you kept saying this, and Jelensky was agreeing that basically who cares if someone goes on an immunity run, because that's not why people vote for people to win the game. That's just not what we've seen. There's not really a lot of evidence of it. And the players that have done it, Tom, I mean, that was he was a good socially too. And that was a pretty unique season with the way it shook out and all that. And then Mike Holloway, that's probably the one example. And he was the underdog and he was on the bottom and he clawed his way. But I think Teeny made some of these points tonight. I think there is a whole other side of this. And it's that if someone's always winning immunity, it means you can't win immunity. And that alone is threatening, because if you are a good player, especially in the new era, we keep hearing it over and over. If you make one good move, like if you even make the best move at Final 6, let's say, at Final 5, you're the number one threat and you could be voted off next. We've seen it over and over again with Omer, with Jesse. I mean, it's shocking that Genevieve is still in the game. After making one move, I mean, really, she led one vote and now she's just public enemy number one. No one will work with her. So for someone like Genevieve, I know she was trying to put the vote somewhere else, but like, you want immunity, you want the chance at it. And if Kyle is taking that from you, that's no good. So I get why they did this. Another reason too, is if let's give Andy and give you like the argument that, hey, Kyle can't win. He's played too one-dimensional of a game. He's just physical. He hasn't done much strategy. I mean, he is social though. People like the guy. Here we go. La Morena agrees. But I think then if you're saying, okay, Kyle can't win because he's one note, then people might want to go to the end with Kyle. And then he's taking up a seat at Final 3 anyway, where it's like, I think I can beat Kyle because he's so one note. And if Andy's thinking that, and if who else is Rachel's thinking that, like, hey, I can beat Kyle. I played up tiered votes and playing a much better game. Then that's also threatening. So I think taking out Kyle is actually the right move here, Phil. I think you're coming from it. Hey, why do we need to do this? Genevieve right now is standing on nothing. She has really just like, since the Saul vote, she has no power. No one wants to work with her. The people that she, has worked with in the past, like Andy was one person who I thought, hey, if this group of misfits gets together and they all want to get Genevieve out, Andy might be the one person to be like, hey, I might go with Genevieve. I want to take the game into my own hands. Genevieve tosses Andy's name out tonight to Rachel. Rachel goes back and tells Andy that bridge is burned, basically. I don't know. Sure, Genevieve made one good move. Why is she such a threat moving forward? I mean, is she going to go on a immunity run? Not as likely as Kyle is. So I think this was the right move.
I think to answer that question of why is she a threat moving forward, I just think that it's because she is social and she's strategic. And I think that's always more threatening in the new era of Survivor, though, just the way the game moves. I think that, like you're seeing in the preview for next week, all of a sudden, Genevieve and Sam potentially working with Andy. And we know that there's twists and there's turns. The one thing I think is interesting is we as an audience have the knowledge that Rachel has literally all of the power in this game. With the exception of Sue's idol, Rachel had one immunity tonight. She has the immunity idol, and she has a block of vote. So that alliance of 5 is even more powerful than it might have seemed in another situation. But Blake, what do you think about this? Break the tie here? What do you think?
I don't think I would vote for Kyle to win. So I do think there is a layer of, Andy, you're making a lot of sense, but I don't want you to say this because I want Kyle to go home. But I would not vote for Kyle to win. So it is kind of like, what do I care more about as a Final 8 player who has a good alliance of like, if I lock in with these 5 people and get Kyle, then we all prove to each other, and now I can start betraying them, and I'll get closer to them step by step. Or do I want to prove to myself that, like, if I was a juror and Kyle was on there, like, I don't want to prove that I wouldn't vote for Kyle. I want to prove that I could beat Kyle. Mm-hmm. So, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is Kyle, I think this is Kyle's time to go, mostly because of what you said earlier of, yeah, let's see who else can win an immunity. And like, I think I can still beat Genevieve, and maybe like Sam starts slurping up these immunities, and like Sam goes on a run now. And then as soon as Sam trips up, it's a clear Sam's going to take everything. And then pretty soon, by both of those things happen, I'm already in Final 4 and it's time to make fire. Mm-hmm. So like there's not much room left with 7 people left after this vote. Let's just get Kyle out now, and I'll take my chances with what's going on here.
I guess also it's a matter of what is your strength, right? Like, do you feel that your strength is going to be stronger at the final tribal council when you're making a pitch to the jury than Kyle's strength is going to be? For example, Kyle, if his thing is I win immunities, well, Rachel just won an immunity and beat him. It was pretty much head to head, the two of them. The 8 people who were in that challenge know that Rachel was the one who beat him. So she might be able to put a little dent in that. Gabe also beat Kyle. So I think that could be a point there where maybe you say, hey, Kyle's strength isn't super strong. Whereas if Genevieve, who everybody knows made this Saul move and is in such a bad spot right now, she's like the leper of the tribe. If she's able to turn this around and gain momentum and sit at Final 3, that's a way more compelling argument than I give 120% for my family and I give 100% for myself and I won 5 immunities. I think that's just my opinion. Now, granted, I do think both of them had to go. So maybe that's where Kyle does make more sense here because you finally had the opportunity. But I was leaning towards Genevieve should have gone here.
But like, why can't you get Genevieve out at 7 or at 6? Right? Because the only argument would be she wins immunity. And then it's like, wait a second, that's the same argument that we would use for Kyle. And Kyle's way more likely to win an immunity than Genevieve. And if they both need to go, get the guy out who's more likely to win immunity when he doesn't have it.
I think what I would say to that is when it comes to Genevieve, she can go and actually make relationships with other people to get them to work with her because she's strategic enough. She knows what to offer and everything. I don't think that Kyle can do that. Kyle had no signs of that the entire game. He was even saying, he tried to say tonight, like, I can be deceitful, I can lie, I can do it, but I'm trying not to. And so I think he was super screwed there.
Yeah. And I think that's really what it comes down to, Phil. You kind of just said this, is like they both need to go. Like, you don't really want to sit at the end with either of them, and you want Kyle out for the fact that he's going to, make it less likely that you as a player still in the game at Final 7, like you want to win immunity. They both need to go.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it's kind of like the whole light switch thing of
flip the win switch.
It's easier to like, oh, Kyle's light is off right now and we have to beat him again. So like he's going to turn his light on quicker than Genevieve is, of like, I just have to work around Genevieve and say to every single person, we have to eliminate Genevieve or she will beat us. And that seems a lot easier to do than beat Kyle in a physical competition right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, this could also be, we're debating this, because this could be a damned if you do, damned if you don't, like either way. Like if you take out Genevieve here and then Kyle wins and you're the next person on the chopping block, like whoever it is, let's say somehow it turns against, Teeny or Caroline somehow, or even Rachel, even though Rachel has all these toys, like then you're like, damn, I should have gotten rid of, I would have had a chance to win immunity. And then if you let Genevieve somehow, you let her through one more vote, it seems like she was, I don't know, concocting some sort of fake idol in the preview and that she was rallying people together. I mean, she is going to try. She's going to put forth an effort to get the numbers or to move the vote off of her. So, yeah.
Yeah, Genevieve just scares me more at a final tribal. I think that's 100%. My personal
Definitely.
preference. That's my personal preference. So, Nikolai put this up. I'm back after some time. # not for nothing. Haven't said that in a while, honestly. So
you're the not for nothing king.
I know. Thank you for coming back, Nicholas, so that I could say it again. All right, let's dive into some other parts of this episode. For example, Blake, why don't you take us through what Rachel did tonight? Why don't you take us through a little bit here of how bad her game is looking right now?
What Rachel did tonight is she concocted a 5-person alliance that she's clearly the winner pick out of. They should have been like, it should be 4-on-4 because Rachel is just as scary as Genevieve. I don't know why Caroline's letting Rachel into that group. She made an unbreakable bond with Sue as soon as Sue lost her unbreakable bond with somebody else. And if Sue had to pick between Rachel and Caroline, she would pick Rachel according to everything we know about Sue and every face she's made. Then she decided to do well, if you guys aren't going to stop Sam and Genevieve from getting a game-breaking power that's clearly put in at Final 8 to make sure that the 5 alliance we just shook on gets completely blown up, I guess I'll put my hat into the ring. Then she wins a 33% chance to get on a boat, to drive to the middle of the ocean, to go to Rachel's plateau, or what do we call it?
Barge.
Barge. Rachel's barge.
Not a plateau. I know it's
Rachel's barge, where she sees a TikTok challenge where the TikTok challenge of this was, it was like Latin American countries were doing this and picking different people to like, if you do this, do this. And I would watch it every time. And it would like, I know how to do this puzzle. It's not a very hard puzzle, but it was something where like throw the weight off was such an involved thing where it's like, we're getting our cameras one way or the other. Like they could have pulled her off. I don't think it was as close as it looked. I think she won with clearly a whole thing left. And she had to pretend like get close to it, but not too close to it or you'll fall off. But then she won a vote blocker, which if anybody decides to go against her and she figures it out, she can block their vote and switch it around them. And then if she does get completely, Rachel's draft is, thank you, Dr. Katz, professional therapist. I haven't seen you in 20 years. The thing that's in my mind is Rachel has the vote blocker and an idol now, and an alliance and support. And then even Andy, wasn't Andy like, Rachel, we can do this? Or was that every other episode of the last 3 episodes?
No, I mean,
that's Andy to every player, every episode. It seems
it is. And we'll talk about Andy's relationships here. Look, I think that Rachel.
She won immunity. I didn't even say the immunity part.
You didn't even say the. I would be floored. Look, I'm just at the point. I've been on the Rachel train here for a while. I've been on Rachel's raft for a while. I would be floored.
Rachel's barge.
If she doesn't win after this week, I would be shocked at this point. Like, I just feel
really.
I'd be absolutely floored if she loses this season after tonight's episode.
I don't know if I'd be floored.
She's in the final 3. She's in the final 3.
She had fire in her glasses, according to somebody, though.
So maybe she loses to fire and she goes the Rick Devens way.
Yeah, no, I don't know if she's, and I think she's playing a good game. And I've been pretty much, I think, since the second episode of The Merge, it's between, I've said it's Rachel or Andy pretty much. And
you said it's Andy or Rachel. You said Andy.
Sure. No, but Rachel has taken over as the front runner over the past like 2 or 3 episodes. I actually thought tonight, out of any other episode, increased winning chances for like the players I didn't think had like any shot of winning. Like Caroline getting the personal content, about her being a little girl and having ADHD and her failing and like why she's playing the game the way she is, and explaining the Gabe vote to Sue and getting that relationship back. I mean, Caroline has really steered almost, I think, maybe not the Saul vote, but almost every other vote. Caroline's been in on it. and she knows where the votes are going, and she's really a vocal part of. She always finds her way into the majority and has a vocal role in that majority. So I think Caroline is playing a really good game. It might be too little, too late. We haven't seen a ton of her when you compare her to Rachel. But all right, go ahead, Phil. Read this one.
No, you read it. I think it's good for you to read it. It's kind of making the same point you're making.
Cody Brayman or Brahman. Thank you, by the way. I think tonight showed why she won't win. She just became the biggest threat. I believe we are getting an undeserving final 3. And that could be true. I mean, we've seen players like Rachel, and maybe she's not, at the level Omar was with, his villainy and, strategy of just like manipulating and lying to everybody. She hasn't done a lot of that. But we've just gotten so much from her as taking the game into her own hands. And she's so loaded up with the toys. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I think, Phil, that's kind of what you're saying. She's in Final 3. She's in Final 3 because how does she not get there at this point? We know at Final 4, none of your toys work. They break. They go to Santa's workshop to get fixed. You can't use them. So it could be fire that undoes Rachel.
And block of vote is good through 6. The immunity idol is good through 5. So she's got something at least through 6 and 5. So she is powerful. Like, she really is. And if she starts to get the bad idea, I keep thinking, for me, she's like that meme where the guy is like hunched over and he says, call an ambulance. And he goes, but not for me. And he pulls out that. That's how I feel like Rachel is right now. It's like everybody's sitting there going, oh man, we got this great Final 5. This is awesome. And Rachel's like, yeah, it's great for me. It's not great for you. Like, you guys are screwed. This is the best Final 5 I could ask for. Because I do think at the end of the day, Rachel might not have to use her toys, which could be very damaging to her game. But also, I do think that more people, if you look at that 5, tonight we hear people say, again, we all want to take Andy and Sue to the Final 3. Like, we hear people saying that out loud to each other. That's not good for either of them. Teeny has made no move. Caroline's the only one. Look, you're about to make the Andy argument. I think there's no way in hell.
Sorry to interrupt you there. But I need to jump in. See, I mean, we've kept hearing this is a well plotted narrative of Andy being an underdog and unassuming, people not taking him seriously. If Andy wins this season, these are the exact quotes in lines that you will force feed the audience.
We won't have to worry about that, brother.
I'm telling you, like when they kept when that episode when Andy flipped and voted out Sierra, you had Rachel and Sam say back and forth, I keep forgetting about Andy. I keep forgetting about Andy. And guess what? He pulled one over on them, voted out Sierra. They were both left out of the vote, completely blindsided. That was Andy's move. That was Andy's doing. And if Andy is the winner, that's the exact line where it's like Andy's getting dragged. Because guess what? We're the viewer. We have more information than the players. We know Andy's not getting dragged. You watch the pre-merge. Andy is hustling. He's playing hard. He's getting every single episode title. Like he is a force in this post-merge. And so when you hear players saying Andy's doing nothing, he's getting dragged, I think that looks worse on the players that are saying that, because as an audience, we know that to be false. And that it only elevates Andy's underdog narrative. So I think that actually makes me think he's even a higher chance to win.
What really threw me off tonight, though, and then Blake, I'll let you go because I can tell you're chomping here. What threw me off tonight was when he said at Tribal Council, I lied to everybody over on the jury, and then they cut to Rachel's face or Sierra's face, and it was essentially her version of saying, F you, Andy, I hate your guts. And
sure.
That cut is not a good cut. And you're making this argument, Will. One of the first podcasts we ever did. Well, we're coming up on 10-year anniversary of you and me, right? 10-year anniversary. That's insane. One of the first podcasts we ever did was best players to never win. And I put Sugar in like my top 10. And you shit on me for that entire podcast saying there's no way. I think Andy is going the way of Sugar, not to the vitriolic level of like everybody hating, but I just think like nobody is taking Andy seriously. And it doesn't matter how good your pitch is. Nobody's taking you seriously. The audience is going to get you because you're gold. You can't have Gabon without Sugar being the star of Gabon. But I just don't think Andy's going to be able to make it. I don't think he's able to convince people.
I gave you so much grief because I think best players to never win, if you're going to do that, probably you want to do like people that didn't make it to Final 3. If you make it to Final 3 and still don't win, or better yet, you made it to Final 3 and you didn't receive a single vote. I think that's like not, Yeah, it's not like a good list, Phil. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Your best people never win are the people that fall short. They go out at, in third place or fourth place, your Rob C's, your Cerise, your Jessies, those type of your fallen angel players.
I was young. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, you were very new to the Survivor.
I didn't know how to have
specialist. You weren't a specialist yet.
No, I wasn't. We didn't have that name. We were just
best player to never win. I don't know how you could put a 0 vote finalist on that list. And you could put a losing finalist. If you really wanted to argue Dominic, I think Dominic was. Yeah, I think
that's a 0 vote finalist.
That's a good point. Fishbach different than Sugar, my friend.
I don't know. Sugar might have gotten a vote. Anyway, Blake, what did you want to say about this? Now that we've got all turned around.
Yeah, what are we doing? I just thought it was funny that Sue is talking about oh, I got to get resilient. It's pretty hard out here. And then Andy goes, yeah, I almost died right over there. You guys remember that? And now I'm still persevering through this. And none of this game has been easy for any of us. And I'm just like, this seems like a final 3 pitch at final 8, final 8 challenge. Even why are you saying all this, Andy? I would just chill out. Ken McNichol, bring him back.
Ken McNichol won 4 immunities, by the way.
Survivor Octopus. You mean Ken McNichol isn't the best player to never win? That's Kyle. I mean, that is Kyle right there.
Yeah, I got more I want to say on that too about this. We're not done off that topic yet. Blake, what else did you got here? You were saying he's making the pitch.
He's just making a pitch, and you're like, Andy, if you remind people, if you're like, I feel like Andy's final tribal council started on day 3 when he almost died, and he's reminding people every 10 minutes or every 5 days or whatever makes sense, every couple days of, man, haven't we all had a journey? We've all had a rough thing. And I'm looking at a couple of people, I'm like, I don't know where their rough thing started. So you're clearly talking about yourself. So you can be like, remember when I said this, this, and this? I think my favorite confessional, though, was Caroline going, where the hell did you get 6.25%? That's not reality. And I was like, thank God somebody can listen to Andy say that and be like, yes, you're a numbers guy, but we don't have computer plugs out here, dude. This is all about humanity and hunches. And I do think that'll be Andy's where he loses out of I calculated it already. I work with computers. I ran the numbers, and it's like, bro, I just hate you because you said some weird shit about me or something. I don't know. I just hate you to hate you. It doesn't make sense. There is no logics behind this. You lose.
The 6.25% thing was making a lot of assumptions, and that's the assumption that everything is just going to be a 50-50 shot or something like that for Kyle. So that was
I actually think he, if anything, I think is overestimating, and here's why. He's not taking everything at equal value. If you take everything at equal value, it'd be 1 out of 7 times 1 out of 6 times 1 out of 5 times 1 out of 4. That would be it. So should we crunch that?
That'd be 40.
1 out of
840. 5 1 out of 4. So that's 1 out of 840. Okay.
Did that in my head. Holy shit.
That is insane, Phil. How did you do that? So
man.
So that is 0.11%. Okay. If that's all equal value. Now, anyone who watches Survivor, has watched the new era or modern Survivor at all, knows that once we get out of the endurance part, and we actually saw it today, once there are fewer people, the challenges become less endurance and they become more obstacle coursey, if that's an adjective. And obstacle coursey challenges often end in puzzles. And we have not seen, and Kyle's great in these challenges, don't get me wrong, but I think probably 3 out of 4 of those challenges are going to end with puzzles, or maybe 2, even half. And so to say that Kyle has a 1 in 2 chance at each one, I think you're already giving him a lot of credit. And even if that is the case, it's 6.25%. I think it's pretty sound reasoning from Andy. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was saying the whole time, I actually think Andy's pitch was right. I mean, that literally, if you were to break that down, 1 over 840, that's 0.1%. He has a 0.1% chance to do that based on that and everybody being equal. Now, granted, there's certain players you might not have a chance, but look, Sue was finishing second a lot. That's pretty good.
Sue won one.
Sue won one. Exactly. So people are in. Genevieve and Teeny both beat Kyle in a challenge earlier this season already. Sam was right on his heels once. It's been done. So yeah. I think
they should have gotten rid of Genevieve, honestly.
They should have. I know. That's what I'm saying. I know. Where was I going to? Oh, so I want to go back to this real quick though, because while we're talking about the numbers, because I do think like a lot of people have been talking so much about the immunity threat and what that means for Survivor, right? And like how big of a factor it is. So I do want to bring up the people who have won 4, because there's only been 6 who have won 5, but I think at least bringing up all the 4. So there's 19 people in U.S. Survivor history who have won either 4 or 5 immunity challenges. Over under, Will. How many? I'm not even going to give you a number, but how many people out of those 19 do you think won without looking it up?
Didn't we just do
No. I did it out of the 5. So I'm just saying I'm going down to the next level with your people who have done. Who have won 4 or 5.
We already did Tom and Mike, and then Fabio and Jenna. Did they win 3 or did they win 4? I think they only won 3 each. I'll say out of 19, I'd say 4 of them won.
Blake, what do you think it is? You probably looked it up.
6.
It's 7. So that actually, the number does get bigger at 4. Like, it's weird how that works, right? Like, I'm just more putting that out there as like the people who have won 5. It's 2.
All right, who are they?
Jenna and Fabio both won 4.
Okay.
Kim Spradlin won 4. Tom
Kim won 4. Wow.
Yeah, Tom won.
Mike, Kim. There's one more we're missing.
Mike. That's 5. Who are the other 2? I had it up and I ended up
deleting.
My computer was about to explode.
Okay, let's do people who get the 7th most confessionals in a season.
No, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I do think that, like, you know, you win 5. If he goes for that record, if he ties that record, he's got a 1/3 chance essentially. The people who've won 4, though, Tony was another one in Winners at War, and then Boston Rob and Redemption Island. Those were the other 2. So there's your 7. It actually does go up. You have a better than 1/3 chance if you're getting at least 4. So like maybe it's not such a crazy story that like winning 4 immunities could win you Survivor. It's just funny that winning 5, your odds actually went down.
Right, but I think that's so dependent on the person who's playing. We can't bake it down to like, okay, if you win 4 or win 5, you have this percentage chance of winning. It's like we have to take Kyle who he is at face value here, and like his winning chances aren't that high. Like Tony winning 4 and going to the end is different than Kyle winning 4 and going to the end. We can't treat those things equally.
It usually has to happen at the right time too.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So
location, baby.
I want to go back to this moment of Rachel deciding, because Blake talked about it briefly and glossed over it. Let's talk about Rachel deciding to block Sam and Genevieve. How did nobody else jump at this opportunity when Sam and Genevieve were like, we want to go on the journey?
I think they kind of said what was going on. It was like, oh, I've already been to 2, or like some of those people don't feel confident to come back to a group of people and lie to them to their face and be like, oh, I didn't get anything. It fell into the ocean. And I think Rachel's just a better player that's like, yeah, throw whatever you want at me and I'll be able to throw it back, and like I can volley all day.
I think those 5 people came together pretty quickly and they felt this instant comfort. And a lot of them have had, you know, long, treacherous roads, as we've heard, like including Andy, including Teeny. So you're in that position finally, or like we finally have the majority at final 8. Why would I go and do some journey where I can lose a vote or maybe lose multiple votes? Who knows with modern day Survivor? And so that level of comfort, I think, was too tantalizing to just like, you know what, I don't need it. We're in a good spot. And guess what? If it's, you know, Genevieve and Sam going head to head, and Genevieve goes, great, we can vote out Kyle, or we can vote out Sam. Like there's other options. Again, it's like this group of 5. They said it tonight, and you said it here, Phil. It's like we need to get all 3 of these people out anyway. So if one person gets something, I don't think it's going to upend us, and you don't want to put yourself at personal risk. Now, obviously, Rachel's like, we can't let one of these people get advantage. She went and did it. Very wise by her, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And still luck involved, obviously, because she still has to draw the right color rock. Still, Genevieve or Sam could have ended up going. So
sure, of course.
Yeah. What
can we talk about that?
Saw a block a vote or no?
What's that?
Is this the first time we've seen a block a vote?
I think we've seen a block a vote before. We've definitely seen it in some.
We've seen steal of votes.
We've seen an instance, and I think it's the new era where maybe it's when we split into groups and the winning team, like the winner of the immunity.
HHH Island of the Idols. The last time we saw it was Island of the Idols.
We saw one. It wasn't a block a vote that you could play anytime, but you were allowed to block someone's vote at tribal council as like a one-off thing, when you were like the observing party, kind of like the Saul thing this season,
Mm-hmm.
when he could give safety without someone was able to block one person's vote. And couldn't tell you the season. I think it's New Era, but I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, XX here says Heidi did in 44, kinda.
Yeah, something like that.
That's what you're thinking of, because that's when Heidi, I forget exactly what she was able to do, but it was kind of that. But yeah, the only 2 times we've officially seen this version were in Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers and Island of the Idols. So we have this month.
Ash is me with this insight. Saul's advantage he gave to Rachel actually had to block a vote on it as a choice. It didn't seem like a choice, but when safety without power is there. But
how many powers is Rachel gonna get?
Dude,
She would have been long gone.
The reason Rachel's about to win this game.
Saul, yeah, she would have been out.
Okay, so Rachel can be the first person to win using I'm gonna get up and leave power. I'm gonna block a vote power, an idol, an immunity, and then whatever they give her to get through fire. If they have a fireproof. Yeah, like you just get a fireproof thing. I don't
think you want fireproof when you're trying to make a fire.
No, you just literally walk through the fire and go to the final 2.
You skip fire.
You skip fire.
Wait, can we talk about how awesome this journey was now?
Oh, it's great. This was the best one I think maybe they've ever done.
Kicked so much ass.
Mm-hmm.
That the first of all, just the setting alone, that they just have a barge in the middle of the ocean, like A+ location for a journey. We haven't seen anything like that. Then the mechanism with the rope in the weights as a timer, and it pulled the whole table in. I mean, just outstanding. Just so cool. I loved it so much.
I talk a lot about how Survivor's been making a lot of changes that aren't good for the audience. Like they're doing it where the players and production are affected by it in a positive way, but the audience could give a shit. Like, I say that with lost votes and things. This was great for the audience. The audience got to not an hourglass with sand dripping down. We got to watch the ropes behind Rachel while she's working through this as those weights are tumbling in. You get to hear the splashes. That's awesome. That gets your heart pumping as a fan and a watcher of the show. I thought that was phenomenal. I think this is the best they've done.
It came down to the wire. I mean, it might have been some TV magic there. Who knows? But it looked like she pulled the thing out and the table goes flying into the ocean. That was just so cool.
Mm-hmm. It was cool. Now, do they go and pick that up, Will, or is that just floating at the bottom of Fiji?
They definitely pick it up. 100%.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just making sure.
Every single
the only way you could have a barge out there in the middle of the ocean is if there is like a place to anchor, which means it's not like infinitely deep ocean. It's like a place. There are spots around there where it's more shallow and you can anchor things.
The way that barge was, it had like a board on top, and then there was like a little like cavern thing in like one of the parts of the boat. I don't know. Were either of you worried that Cochran was about to pop out to help Rachel with this challenge? was that a concern for any of you?
I'm honestly always worried Cochran's about to pop out.
Because when you said they've never done anything like this, you're right. But the last time we went on a boat in the middle of the water, it was Debbie seeing Cochran. So I don't know. Just a little fear in my mind of, oh shit, are we about to jump the shark? But no, this was great. This was awesome. And it was an easy challenge for the audience to follow. It was something anybody could do. You could position, what would my strategy be? There was enough time to it. I thought this was great.
Dr. Eureka. Remember that, Phil?
I don't.
At the game with the balls, the test tubes, and you have to pour the balls on the right. Yeah.
I do remember that. All right, what else we got? Before we jump into anything else, I'm going to do this now because we're 33 minutes in. We got a bunch of people watching. Not as many as RHAP, as Captain Obvious has pointed out numerous times.
It's very Captain Obvious.
As if we ever get close. Here we are. But we are doing a discount on our Patreon for new signups through the end of this season. So through December 18th, new signups can get a discount, a percentage off. Patreon determines what that percentage is. So I don't exactly know how much the percentage is, but I know it's greater than 25%. So that's good. So if you've been thinking about becoming a patron, patreon.com/thespecialists. It's only good for the first month, but maybe that can get you in the door and see, then you can explore and see what we have going on over there. We have so much going on as it is. And with the holidays coming up, maybe this is the thing where you can say to some family members, hey, I want this. I want the Survivor Specialist. I want the Specialist Patreon as my Christmas present. And honestly, at this point, if this ends up being like a 50% discount, you're talking like $10 for a month. That's a really good gift. That's a nice, cheap, you could probably get multiple things from that family member.
We're over there all the time on the
all
Patreon.
the time. Will and I were podcasting right before this. It's never ending. And Will made me go straight up to 8 on the dot. He was looking at the clock, pretty much trolling me. So yeah, right on the dot. But anyway, so become a patron, patreon.com/thespecialist. It was a big year for us. We got 1 month left. We're finishing up Panama. We got Cook Islands coming up. You get to hear Blake's takes about how Terry's a dick or something, just hates Terry. So,
and for 48, all you have to do is figure out who I like and pick the opposite, and you'll win your draft. So.
Pick the person that Blake hates the most. That'll be the person. And then I also want to shout out Idle Plays, Russell Muscle TV. So he's doing a Black Friday discount. It's that time of year. He's doing a Black Friday discount. So if you click the link that's in the description, you can get one of his puzzles, which are awesome, for a cheaper price. Not sure exactly what that discount is either, but he texted me to say that. Also, if you're doing the over-under game, the prize for that will be one of the puzzles from Idle Plays. So there you go. Now if you're doing the prop bet game, the winner of that gets one of the Pop Funkos or Funko Pops. I think it's Funko Pops.
It's Pop
Todd.
Funko.
Yeah. You get one of those from Todd. And then if you win the over-under game, you get one of the puzzles from Russell. So anyway, there you go. Those are the two. Everybody else, we'll do power rankings and all that stuff later. Let's get back into the episode a little bit here. Will, you were talking about Caroline earlier. So we kind of glossed over that, kind of pushed you away because I wanted to talk about Andy. What do you think about Caroline here? Did she make the right decision? Was this the best move for Caroline's game? Kyle going home.
That's tricky. Again, I think it's like I don't think Caroline's beating Kyle. I don't think Caroline's beating Genevieve either. So it's like
who can Caroline beat?
I think Caroline can beat Andy. I think Caroline can beat Sue. That's two of the people in her 5-person alliance.
It's true.
I think she has a case against Teeny. Mm-hmm. I think she's done more than Teeny. I think she's played a better game than Teeny so far. So the only one within her alliance she needs to worry about is Rachel. And she has said, and the show made it very clear, that Caroline at one point thought Rachel was the number one biggest threat in the game. So I think that's Caroline's. I think you get out Genevieve tonight, and then Kyle wins a couple of immunities. That could be a thorn. I think if Genevieve survives next week without winning immunity, we really have to talk about Genevieve as we talk about some of the other, the Omers and the Jessies.
I agree.
Of like the people that are just so naturally gifted to play this game.
Mm-hmm. She did a great job of lowering herself this episode. And Jeff even said it to her. Is this just exhaustion, or is this is this because of the circumstance? And I think that she did do a good job of she's playing it as cool as she can. Like, how do you play it cool at this point? You're so screwed, but she's doing a good job as well as you pretty much can.
She did this last week too. Like at Tribal, it was her, Gabe, and in off the chance that, hey, Gabe was actually going to go home, her answers were so like, oh, I don't know, Jeff, I'm just here. No one's talking to me. And she's playing from a position of having no power in the game. Like that's actually her real position, but she's doing a great job at showcasing that to the rest of the players.
If you get one more margarita in you and you say, I don't know, Jeff, it might come out as the Donovan voice. That's all I'm saying. We don't need that here right now, but one more margarita. That's all I could hear in my head was you saying it as Donovan.
I don't know, Jeff.
Yeah. Anyway, Blake, what do you got? Go ahead.
There's a couple things about Genevieve that I want to say of I think it was interesting that we focused on her a lot today of, hey, I don't really like how I feel whenever I betray my friends. So instead of betraying my friends, I'm just not going to make friends. So I'm just betraying people I don't really care about, which was like a very unique way to think about this game because everyone else walks the other path of, okay, sorry to do this to you. And now we're not friends anymore. But the other thing I kind of want to say about Genevieve, which I don't know if we've thought about this, but how is her move to get Saul good? And everyone says, what a good move. Great move, Genevieve. That was Genevieve's move. She did such a good move. And now she's had to dodge a major bullet whenever Gabe goes home. And then there's a flamethrower whenever it's time for Kyle to go home. And she's the alternate booth for both of those votes. And how can we reconcile that the Saul vote was so smart for her and now she's barely surviving tribals. Like, I don't get how both of those things have been said by the community on Twitter, on Reddit, on whatever, of like such a good smart vote for her, and now she's running for her life every 5 seconds.
You know what it was, Blake? This is how. It was a terrible move. It was such a bad move. She did it too early. And I said that night, and I got shit on for it, and I'm going to keep getting shit on for it, and that's okay. She made the move too early. That was their biggest mistake. She just went too early. Getting rid of Saul was smart for her game, but she needed to wait an episode or two. She went too early.
And to answer your question, Blake, then why is she now revered as this big threat when the move that she made was in fact detrimental to her game? Is that the players out there I don't think they care whether a move is good or bad for one's own game. I think they care about who can take credit for any given move, and that any player who has a claim to have owned a move or dictating the vote or having agency in the game, all these buzzwords, driving vote, being in control, all of this, that alone is a threat in itself. And so, yes, it was a bad move for Genevieve's game, but it's still threatening to other players, especially players that maybe don't have, a head on their wall. They don't have a body they can claim, hey, I took this person out. That was my idea. I put the numbers together and pulled the trigger, made it happen. If you're a player and don't have that, and now you sit next to Genevieve, well, what are you going to say against her at final 3? And so it wasn't a good move, but she's still threatening because she has, a move to her name.
Yeah. And having a move in this era is huge. Now, what did you guys think about the fact that, Blake, you brought it up, Genevieve has this confessional talking about how she's trying to keep everybody at arm's length. She didn't like the way the Keyshawn vote made her feel. And then that is immediately before Andy starts talking about, I have the best relationship with everybody here. Boom, 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 boom. What are we supposed to get from that? Because it was very opposing game styles. And they showed them both back to back. And I don't feel like the editors really told us to feel strongly one way or the other about either one of them. So what did you think about those being side by side like that?
I think it's going to be one of those things where both of these people lose. So these are both losing strategies, the way that these players are doing this. I fully feel like Andy thinks he's closer to everyone, but then whenever it's going to be time to vote for me in the end, or weren't we buddies this whole time? People are going to be like, Andy, you thought you were winning this game? You were on your back on day 3. Like, we never thought you had a chance. Yeah. And that'll be rough pill for him to swallow, but then he's a cool dude. He'll figure it out. And then Genevieve, whenever it's like, I'm going to put people at arm's length. Well, that's not how you got this far. Mm-hmm. You did lie to get through that 6-person tribe. And you made it with a group of people who trusted you. And if people can't trust you, you're going to be the one going home, or you're going to be the one targeted. So it's going to be, I'm going to put people at arm's length so I don't end up with blood on my hands, but then there won't be blood on your hands because it's your blood that's getting on other people's hands.
Lots of blood.
Lots of blood. Brandon wants to know if we talked about my haircut yet. I got to throw it up. Brandon Donlin in the chat. If you haven't listened,
rank your favorite hairstyles on this group from 1 to 3.
I know, and Will's number 1 right now. If I would have never gotten the haircut, if I would have known Will was going to do his hair before this podcast. Normally comes in looking like a schlub, and now he's gorgeous.
Well, I've got a family dinner.
Just saying, dude.
I saw a comment earlier. I wasn't going to throw it up, and now that it's top of mind, I wish I could find it. It was like, I can tell Phil got a haircut. I watched The Specialist way too much.
Yeah, I saw that. That was good. I know. I wanted to grab that, and then it went by too fast. Everybody was commenting.
So
I know.
Sorry that we can't.
Captain Obvious says I was blindsided by the barber. So, yeah, I get
Captain Obvious hates.
That's why he's here. That's why he's here. He's here.
I mean, for someone who hates us, he's here every week live listening. So hate us, keep hating.
I like it. There was another thing I wanted to talk about. And I don't have it in my notes here. What's going on? What the hell did I do?
You take notes?
I only did for this episode because I wanted to write down the names of everybody who had won the 5 immunities, and then I just started writing down the journey.
I guess I have a note while you wait for your note. Is like, it's the immunity. We're gonna build the immunity tower, and like everybody's smart enough to.
I do have a question for this. Thank you, Blake. This worked. Go ahead, continue.
Everyone's like, let's do the tower backwards, and you're like, okay, everyone figured out the metagame of this. But then in my mind, when I'm thinking of this, I'm like, Jeff has narrated this challenge maybe 7 or 8 times. I started listening to what Jeff's saying for his narration. It is so like, Jeff, you are phoning it in. Like, this is the same shit every time. It's the same beats. Every single player makes the same mistakes that other players have made before. Like, this is a challenge where I would eliminate as a producer of like, there's just nothing new for us in this of like, it's not interesting who's going to really take their time. Thank God they had a moment of like, oh, my husband's super patient and I rushed through everything and I channeled him. Maybe I need a husband like that so I can win some challenges on Survivor. Maybe that's what everyone else is thinking.
You want me to put your bio in the description?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I do think this challenge is like, can we go ahead and let's retire this one forever because we have seen it all.
I could not disagree more.
That's
I
so
thought
fun.
this challenge was like fantastic. And this challenge is a classic for a reason. We had a point early on this challenge. We had 3 people with 1 letter left, and they all dropped.
What?
You get so many fake outs. There's no other challenge though, Blake. I agree with you guys half and half here. There is no other challenge where you can get fake outs the way that this challenge can give
the
you.
lead changes they're amazing because so many challenges you're like, okay. And then everyone's like, oh, we get too many endurance challenges or a balance challenge. It's like this is
because
a
I
perfect
think this
mix
is
that anyone
this is endurance to me, but
No. This
You're
is
balancing
It's a race.
And this is
What are you talking about?
You know what I like about this one that I don't like about other puzzles? Because this is technically still a puzzle. It's a race, but they're building a puzzle.
It's not a puzzle.
But we can watch what's happening on screen. We can watch as they're putting the blocks on, so we can easily tell who's winning every time. I say Survivor cheats so much, and Will yell at me. It's an edited show. Like I didn't know last week when I said the stupid Jenga thing. But we can follow this. A lot of times with puzzles and challenges that we don't know. It's like, oh, this person's moving and like Jeff will narrate it to make it seem like it's more dramatic than what's actually taking place. And we just have to take his word for it. This one, we can see that person has 2 M's. That person
inherently
has 2 M's. Like, it's great.
Inherently dramatic, like real drama here, because Kyle does get pretty close to catching Rachel.
He does.
I mean, his arm lengths of rope were much longer than her short little steps. And it was compelling. And yeah, we thought it looked like Rachel had it and she won, but like the amount of drops before that, I thought this was one of the best iterations of this challenge.
Yeah.
And we've seen different varieties too. We've seen the Edge of Extinction one, the Heroes,
Final
Killers,
Three.
Hustlers, and yeah. And it always works, I think.
So
maybe I just made this because Rachel won, and I'm such a Rachel hater.
Here's what I'll say about this one, though. As I do like it on TV. Whenever I see this at a live event, I am just like, stay away. Like I remember, Will, when we went to Pop Fest that EW put on all those years ago, this was one of the challenges. I think Rob Cisternino was doing this for 20 minutes. It's like if you do this at a live event, like it's not like the balance thing or the spin the ball one. Like those you'll end up finishing eventually because like the cast or the production people who are there will be like, hey, move faster. This one, it's like, yeah, dude, like you're in it now. Like have fun. Just keep walking really slow. So that bothers me. Will, I did get a question on X from somebody regarding this challenge. They said it looked like one of Rachel's eyes was upside down. Does that matter? Does that matter in this challenge?
No, I think any letter that is inherently like on your keyboard, if you can flip it upside down, then that goes, like H, I, O. But obviously, if it's like a U, like we saw with Ben, or like an M versus a W, then those, if it changes like the meaning of the word or changes the letter,
Rigged.
But like if it's still the same orientation, and I know the font does have a vertical like pin where it's like, okay, the I is either facing up or facing down. It doesn't matter when it's one of those letters. That's usually how it goes.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's
Somebody
that's
take a
what I was
picture and put it
wondering.
on Twitter and say rigged anyway, though. Just to
I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get it. Last week it was he's balancing on his arm. This one it's all that stuff. Everything's rigged for everybody. But yeah, that was one that somebody on Twitter was wanting to know. And I knew that we'd get the answer here. And I didn't think it mattered, but it's still worth pointing out because they were facing opposite directions there. Anything else from this episode? Did we miss anything? I feel like we're missing something.
we didn't have a reward challenge. I feel like we needed
We had a journey.
something.
We had a fantastic journey.
But
What are you going on about?
I want some.
Probably like more camp life and more strategy.
I want to see some people eat some tamales or something.
Blake's got tamales on the brain right now.
I will not for nothing.
Oh,
I will say, Sam really got left out of this alliance because Sam came together with Teeny, Andy, and Rachel to do this kind of misfits, outcasts alliance, and it was just kind of surprising for Andy and Teeny Rachel to just be like, okay, let's go to Caroline and Sue, and now we're a 5, and let's lock it in, and boom, Sam now not a part of this at all, and he felt it right away. It was pretty clear.
Yeah, I was surprised that Sam was left out, that he was lumped in with Genevieve and Kyle. He's clearly the third biggest threat out of those three in terms of how everybody was feeling about it. He was in the third most amount of danger. He wasn't really on people's radar, but nobody wants to play with Sam. Sam's on his own. Sam is kind of
and it seemed like it just seemed like last week he was finally taking power back,
Yeah.
And that really didn't happen.
Has Sam been sandbagging challenges and he just takes over now?
I mean, now that Kyle's out, I would probably say anything physical he'd be the favorite in, but he hasn't really been close.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be Rachel and Caroline winning immunities once we get to puzzles.
We had said all girl alliance for next time on Survivor, so that doesn't work out for.
It was all women
minus Genevieve.
Not Genevieve though.
No Genevieve.
Yeah. It was
they don't need Genevieve.
Teeny, Rachel, Caroline, and Sue. So they're kind of casting Andy to the side. Again, more story dynamite here for Andy. If he's finally in this 5-person majority, and then the 4 women in his alliance are like, let's make this a girls thing and screw Andy. And then he somehow overcomes that and gets to the end. I'm telling you, he will have a story and he might sway some jurors.
I think that's the only way they could bring back Lovett from Pod Save America for 50 is like, hey, he got knocked out by the eventual winner. Like, if it was anybody else, maybe John Lovett could have won, but he was going up against the Andy machine.
That's what it was. Yeah. Anyway, we got our third hug of the season, Will. Thank God we kept that in, huh?
God. It
Kyle
seems like
Huggett.
I gotta say that seemed like
a hug. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's more. It seemed like that was a pretty genuine hug, unless he was hugging everyone down the line just so that he could hug Jeff and make it not seem out of place, like that it would fit in. And he's just a big fan of the Specialist and wanted to hit that for everybody's
That's what it was, you think? So I wouldn't be surprised. Kyle goes home with 6 votes, so that doesn't help anybody there. Rachel obviously wins immunity. Nobody lost a vote tonight. Kyle makes the jury. He hugged Jeff. No 3 sit-outs. Rachel got 14 confessionals tonight, so that put her at 10 plus. Goes on a journey. She had already gone, so that didn't change anything. Kyle did not have a confessional in every episode. 40 or more confessionals in the season. It's the same people. Nobody hit it. Andy had the title. Nobody went home with an unused advantage. No reward, so there was no alcohol. There you go. That was all of them right there. So Will's got his alcohol. He needs a refill. That's where he's at. So actually, I can do a quick.
Almost gone. Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, I can actually do a scoring update here. Let's do it. This is exciting, huh?
Next episode is called Operation Italy.
D Motoso 18, Miles Joshua 18, and El Tiri 18, and Team Manzon 18. So all of those people tied with 18 points right now for the prop bet game. Cody Brayman, Caroline voting out Gabe and was able to join the 3 was why they didn't need Sam anymore. Caroline heads up play, screwed Sam.
Caroline's running things very casually, and it's not being like, it's not being shown to us as audience members. The show's not highlighting that, but if you kind of go through all the votes post-merge, Caroline seems to be always in a position of sharing her opinion and influencing it. Yeah. And directing the vote, having agency, all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it'll just come down to the fact, like, will she get any credit for it? Or can she continue to sit in that
position?
Or
can she get there?
Yeah. Can she sit in that position continuously? So, that's it. So on Saturday, I'm actually going to obviously I'm not doing Digging Deeper tomorrow. I'm going to be doing it Saturday, 8 p.m. with Tegwith of TikTok fame and of Survivor Now. So I'll be doing that on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then I'm either going to be podcasting Sunday with Will for Predictions Power Rankings or Monday with James Jones. It's one of those two things. I don't know which one it is yet, but I will let you all know soon. Will, I need to let you know too. So
who are the fans more excited for, James Jones or Will?
Probably James Jones, but that's
probably okay. James Jones.
That's okay. Hey, there are some people that they would be more excited to see you, but I'm just saying.
Very few, I would imagine.
But anyway, so it's going to be one of those two things. So stay in touch over there. I'll still put out my after show tomorrow, even though it's Thanksgiving. And yeah, that's it. Will needs a margarita. Blake needs a nap. It's 10:30 for me. I got to watch the Lions tomorrow. Hopefully win their first Thanksgiving Day game since 2016. Holy shit. Yeah. Anyway,
Bears money line.
Bears money line. Yeah, I mean, there's no more guarantee I've ever seen. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. All right, everybody.
Bad, man.
Thank you so much for listening. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, think about becoming a patron, patreon.com/specials. Like I said, discount through December 18th. If you don't want to pay for it yourself, maybe you can get it as a gift from somebody. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.